dealing with multiple generations in the workforce. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome to the Shut Up and Work podcast. I am your host, the coach, and along with me is SJ. And SJ, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good, Coach. Thanks for asking. I hope everybody is doing well out there.
Great, great, great. And today we're going to discuss dealing with multiple generations in the workforce. So, SJ, without further ado, go ahead and jump right into it.
Thanks, Coach. So, I've had some interesting experiences throughout my career. When I first started, I was the youngest person in a lot of my jobs, and I was the only person of my age in a lot of my jobs. I was fortunate to have a pretty good start. And as I've gotten older, a lot of the workforce has gotten older with me, but now I'm at the point where there are a lot of significantly younger people coming into work. And the funny thing is, it's not just one or two people, it is the majority. So we're seeing a lot of differences in terms of who's in the workplace, their choices, their habits, their values, what they consider to be important, their respect for authority, what they consider authority to mean. So many different things. And it can be very, very challenging. So I just kind of want to discuss that today. I think it's a very interesting topic. And then I have a couple of things that I would like to present to you all to try to make the best out of the situation. So basically, we're dealing with four generations right now. We've got the baby boomers, which is the older generation. And so those would be generally people's grandparents and parents at this point. And then we have Gen X. And that's also a little bit of the older generation, more of the middle age. And I think that's where both of us fall, right, Coach? Are you a Gen X?
Yep, I am a Gen Xer. We were raised by the baby boomers.
Yes. Okay, cool. And then we have the millennial generation, or also known as Gen Y. And then lastly, we have Gen Z. And so these are the youngest in the workforce right now. And it makes for some very interesting situations because the values have really changed a lot within those four generations. So the baby boomer generation, you've got to think about things like their heyday was during Reaganomics. There was a lot of excess. Nobody was really thinking about the planet at that point. Well, not a majority of people. There were small groups, of course, but it was all about, getting rich, acquiring wealth, and, a fancy lifestyle and that kind of thing. And then you had Gen X that came right after that, raised by those people. And, we kind of started to try to make a little bit of a change. But then when reality hit and we had to pay our own bills, we realized, okay, maybe our parents knew what they were talking about. So we're going to have to get in line and do some of those things that we didn't want to do. Maybe we're not going to all be able to follow our dreams of skydiving for a living or something along those lines. And then the millennial generation came along after that. And I don't really know exactly what to say about the millennial generation. I'm not sure if any of you have seen some of the memes and jokes on social media, but there is one particular page that puts out a version of each of these generations and their response to certain things at work. Basically, millennials are a little bit more independent. They are definitely used to and adept with the whole social media and internet online thing. So they have a little bit more independence. They're a little bit more free thinkers, but they still manage to basically comply with the workplace. And then lastly, Gen Z, they kind of push back on a lot. They feel like I'm not going to do this just because it's always been done this way. There's a little bit of that within the millennial generation as well. But Gen Z, I hear a lot and I see a lot of Gen Z coming in, getting a job. It doesn't work out for them. They leave the job. And there are a lot of Gen Z that, don't really want to leave their parents' homes. They feel like I'm comfortable here. I'm going to stay here. I have everything I need here. Whereas earlier generations, their goal was to get out, be on their own, have their independence, have their freedom. So that makes for a lot of confusion, a lot of disagreements, a lot of misunderstandings, and a lot of miscommunications in the workplace. You feel
Yep.
me, coach? You know what I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Yes, it does. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't and I don't know if being a Gen Xer, if we have to be the peacemaker in the workforce, I would say, because see, we were raised by baby boomers, but then we also were slowly introduced into the 21st century. I mean, a lot of us were either young adults or coming into that age or have already finished college, maybe getting ready to finish high school and about to finish college there. So we kind of came out of that industrial age and started moving into the information age. And I think the groups that came after us, they, they were kind of being schooled into becoming the new information age or technology age or whatever, going through grade school and learning computers, phones, and things in this nature. So that's where I'm thinking we kind of land or stand right now as a Generation X person, probably in the workplace, because you understand old Martha over there. And I'm not by all means making fun of old Martha. She's used to a certain way. She's probably going to be more compliant at the job, work a little bit harder. And what I mean by harder, I mean by old school hard ways. She want to do work, keep me piled up, keep me busy until it's time to go home. And she's going to show up on time every day. She's going to take her lunch break at the right time every day. And then, us Xers are going to be, we work hard too, but there are certain times where we may want to, have a breather, take a break, go outside the office, walk around, make a phone call, do something in that nature. And occasionally we may be late to work or we may stay late at work or something in that nature. Then moving on to the younger generations, I think you said, and correct me if I get this wrong, Generation Y and Z, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, Generation Y and Z, that group, they are more or less demanding, hey, what are you going to do for me type of thing. And if it's not something that's maybe done electronically, then they're willing to throw that ideal out. So you have both extremes. And oh, I forgot to mention this: the baby boomers, sometimes, not all, a lot of them, they don't want to deal with the new stuff. And then you got the Generation Y and Z that doesn't want to deal with the old stuff, the ancient stuff. They're going to lose focus and clarity about it, and they're going to tune right out of it. So I see what you're saying, and yeah, I want to hear more of what you have to deal with on a daily basis with that.
Oh, well, I could go on and on
Uh-huh.
with stories and tales, but what I really want to focus on is how we can work together to be productive and how we can use the differences to really enhance our work experience instead of making it more frustrating. We all have a tendency to make assumptions about people who are different than us, and that includes people who are a different age. But we all have strengths that can be used. So, for example, a lot of the young people that I work with, they don't respect the older people who work there because they feel like, well, you don't know this and you don't know that, and I learned this. And their knowledge is fresher because maybe they're just out of school or maybe they're just out of training. They've been learning the newest way to do things. But I would hope and I would ask them to consider there is something to be said for experience. When you've been doing something for a long time, they say that it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something, right? To become, yeah, to master any particular subject. So even though you've been to school, even though you've been training, even though you have worth, nobody's trying to take away your worth from you, but you're beginning something. You are beginning, hopefully, what will be a long journey for your career. So because you finished school or because you've gotten this first job, you're not a master. And you need to be honest with yourself about that. That doesn't mean that you're not talented, that you're not skilled, doesn't mean that you don't have great ideas and that you're not going to make a mark on the world and you're not going to contribute, but at least be open to the fact that people who have more experience than you have things that you might not know.
Great
Then
point.
on the other hand, thank you. Then on the other hand, people who have, a ton of experience, who've been doing this for a long time, don't discount the people who are just coming in fresh out of school. And don't discount the people who are just coming in and learning on the job and getting their training. You have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience that you can impart. Hopefully, they'll be open to that, but they have a fresh perspective. They have questions. They might have great ideas that, with your knowledge and experience, can be implemented to make a better product, to have a better end result. So don't just shut them down because they don't have the experience that you have. This is what diversity and inclusion is about. It's not just about race and gender. It also includes multiple generations because there's a lot of confusion and miscommunication. The relationship that you have with your parents and your family is very different from the relationships that you form outside of that at work and in any other setting, especially a social setting. Those dynamics are not the same because you may have somebody from a younger generation who comes in a managerial position, and they may be managing people who are older than them, and they may be training people who are older than them. And as a matter of fact, at the current position that I'm in,
Mhm.
I had to come in and I was trained by some people who were significantly younger than I was. As a matter of fact, I'm their parents' age, which seems crazy, and I think that when they think of me, they don't on an everyday basis think that, oh, she's my parents' age. But in some situations while we're talking, it does come out. Now, these were very smart, very talented young people, and I have a lot of respect for them. They're doing a great job. And although they weren't my managers, they did have to teach me some things in this particular position that I had not yet done. And so I tried to make it very clear to them that I was giving them their due respect. And in return, they also give me respect, which I appreciate. And so
Nice.
that's the type of work environment that I want everybody to create, to foster, to nurture, so that we can have a better work environment. Yes, this needs to come from management, but we all have an individual responsibility, and there are more of us as employees than there are as managers. Employees always outnumber the managers. So if you create a culture, even if your manager doesn't support it, even if your manager is against it, your numbers can overcome that one manager. And maybe you can get the higher up manager to see that this manager, maybe it's an authoritative manager, like Coach was talking about in the previous podcast. Maybe that manager needs to be on their way out because they've become a hindrance to what we're trying to do here and what we're trying to accomplish instead of somebody that can help.
Right. Great points. Great point. Yeah. And like keep going. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead, Coach. I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh, no. All I was just going to say is just like you were saying, I think, and I know in my last job, I had to be more of a bridge because, as you said, the older generation, they wanted things to be done that it was being done like it was 30 or 40 years ago. And the newer generation saying, hey, is this a better way we can do things? And then going to the other side of that, as you were saying, then the younger generation, when they didn't want to show respect or try to pay their dues, or hey, you may have to stay late for work this one day or do this, or again, having to be that bridge and talk to them and telling them, hey, this is part of the job. This is what you have to do. You don't have to do it all the time, but you're going to have to do these things in order to go where you need to go or try to achieve what you need to achieve. So that's all I was inputting in.
Okay, thanks, coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There are definitely strengths and weaknesses to both. Something else that occurs to me often that I experience a lot, my parents, which were the baby boomer, actually they were older than the baby boomer generation, but they taught me basically that you don't really question authority, that you do things the way that they've been done, that something should be tried and true and tested, and then you continue to do that. But that's definitely not always the best answer to things. There's always a way to grow, to evolve, to do things better, but you have to do that with purpose. You have to do that being observant. You have to do that with discernment. You can't just come in and say, we're going to do things differently. I mean, you can come in, but that's usually not the most efficient way to do things. So let's also consider the fact that, the younger generations, they don't really have a whole lot of respect for authority, and I see why. I see how the younger generations are being raised and their parents are taking more of a friendship approach to parenting their children. They're basically teaching their children that they're equal to adults. And personally, and this is just my opinion, children are not adults. They're
Right.
children. They need to be parented. They need to learn how to follow rules. That's something that is very frustrating for me also in the workplace. A lot of the younger people that I work with don't know how to follow rules. And maybe some rules do need to change, need to be adjusted, need to uh, be addressed. The rules need to evolve as well. But if you can't follow basic rules, then how can you get the job done?
Right.
It's kind of like following the law. If you're breaking the law, then there will be consequences for that. And if you can't follow the rules at work, you don't just get to argue that this is a stupid rule. I don't like it. It doesn't make any sense.
Mm,
If you don't like it, then approach management, try to make a change, try to get things different. But at the same time, the first, like your job is spelled out clearly for you what it is that you're supposed to do. And if you're not doing that, if you're not adhering to those rules, then you're really not doing your job.
great points. Great points.
But again, I'm all for, speaking up. I definitely, one of the things that I definitely appreciate from the younger generations is putting a lot of worth and a lot of value in a work-life balance. Putting your health, putting your mental health, putting your social life, all of those things as priorities. They are equal to your career. And, in some cases, they're more important to your career because we were kind of taught, your career, your career first. That's the most important thing. And there does need to be a balance. Our health has paid the price for it.
Right.
And another thing that I love is that we should question, we should give suggestions, we should come up with ideas. We do need to use our voices. We should not be in fear at work of asking questions or trying to make improvements. We're part of a team, we're there to do a job. We are not slaves and we are not children. So as long as it's done in a professional manner, then that should be fine. There should not be an issue with it. You should be able to speak your minds and contribute at work.
Yep. Good points. Great points. Keep on. Keep going. If
Well,
you got anything else.
that's yeah, that's the large part of it. We can get into minor details, and here's the last thing that I'll leave us with. Let's just respect each other and respect each other's opinions. We're not going to always agree on everything. When
Right.
it comes to small details, like, for example, what somebody may be wearing to work, or how they may choose to wear their hair or their nails, or something along those lines. If there's not a policy about it at work, then keep your opinions to yourself.
Great.
Nobody's asking you for them. I mean, I have a ton of opinions, but some people wear pajamas to work. in this day and age. That's not how I was raised. That's not something that I'm going to do. But I also don't see that it's really impeding anybody's ability to do their job, at least not where I work. Just
Yeah,
because I don't think it's quote professional or I don't think it quote looks good. So what? That's just my opinion. And even if I were a manager, does that necessarily have an impact on somebody's performance? No. Now, will it impact their career? It could, because they may meet with other people who don't appreciate that or who don't think it's professional or it makes a bad impression, but that will be the consequence of their choices. So that's their business.
exactly. And as you just stated, times have changed. So we have to adjust to it.
Absolutely. So let's just listen to each other, show each other respect as coworkers, regardless of age, and of course, all of the other classified specific issues that we talk about, race, gender, etc. And hopefully, we can create better work environments for ourselves and each other.
Exactly. And well put, SJ. And so, anything else?
I think that's all for now. I definitely think we'll revisit this again in the future, and there may be some addendums as well.
Exactly. We definitely will because times are constantly changing and evolving. So there will be newer things, newer rules, newer procedures, and the new norms that are constantly going on. So, with that being said, don't forget, everybody, please like, share, and comment. And in the comments section, put down, hey, what do you see or how do you deal with the different generations that are in the workplace? And what do you see? And what are some things that you may deal with, or how you improve, or how you make everyone come together? Drop us some lines in that comment section. We will definitely appreciate it. So, with that being said, thank you for joining us for this episode, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.